back in May, I made a video talking about how Aladdin almost got an IMAX release, and that made me question, how many more movies were planned for an IMAX release, but then eventually were cancelled? So that's what we're doing today. I'll be showing some examples, and yeah, that's basically it. I think a perfect example of an IMAX release that was cancelled is the Lego Ninjago movie, because originally it was set for an IMAX release for its September date, but it just so happened that on that same date, a little movie called Kingsman: The Golden Circle was just about to release, and IMAX were like, what do we do? I think they did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo situation. I think it went something along the lines of, eeny, meeny, miny, you. Sorry, Ninjago, we just want the Kingsman. And so, Lego Ninjago didn't get the IMAX release. Yeah. In October of 2020, a teaser trailer for Halloween Kills was shown on YouTube saying like, yeah, it's coming next year. Also, it would be an IMAX. That IMAX release never happened because it was sandwiched in between a lot of IMAX movies in October 2021, like, say, Venom Let There Be Carnage, No Time to Die, and Dune. All those movies had an IMAX release, and although the first one and the third one technically had IMAX releases, Blumhouse was just not committed enough to, release a movie in IMAX just yet, with all the competition around. And I guess it's now a good time to mention the 3 Disney movies that were planned for an IMAX release, but sadly they were dumped on Disney Plus and were never given an IMAX release. Those movies were Mulan, that was surprisingly given an IMAX release before it was cancelled, Luca, and Turning Red. And how do I know this? Because the end credits of their movies said optimized for IMAX theaters, even if, again, they couldn't get an IMAX release because they were dumped on Disney Plus. I mean, sure, for Mulan, it was technically released outside of countries because they didn't have Disney Plus, and maybe Luca and Turning Red, but it just depended if, the country that it was released in theaters had an IMAX release and didn't have Disney Plus around that time. So, yeah. Next up is Fall, which was actually filmed with IMAX certified cameras and was originally planned for an IMAX release in the USA. However, it was only given a China release in November 2022 because around the September date, the planned release for Fall in the US, there were some movies around that time, like The Woman King and a re-release of Avatar remastered in 4K or whatever. Just the usual. I don't know what to do anymore. Next up is Maze Runner: The Scorched Trails, and although Japan did get an IMAX release, over here in America, it didn't get anything, most likely because it had some, competition with another IMAX movie called Everest and technically Attack on Titan: End of the World, and that just made it more complicated, so IMAX just said, yeah, sorry, we're not giving your second movie a chance in IMAX. Maybe the third movie, but I really need research, so yeah. And the last one I want to mention is, shockingly, Shrek from 2001. Let me explain a bit. Back in the ye olden days of the early 2000s, DreamWorks and IMAX were like, hey, why don't we just partner up and release Shrek in IMAX 3D in December 2001 with an all new ending of some sorts. But then IMAX were like, but what about money? Oh yeah, I guess that would be too expensive, and we won't do it. And that's how Shrek almost got an IMAX release, sort of. And it was originally supposed to be the first animated film in IMAX 3D, but plans changed and all that. So yeah, that's canceled IMAX stuff.